This is the scariest episode from my childhood. It took place in 1991 when I was 8 years old. I lived in a village on the Norwegian countryside with my parents and 2 older brothers. There weren't many kids around for us to play with, so we always stuck together, despite the age difference. I was 8, and my brothers 10 and 12. It was a safe neighbourhood, and we were outdoorsy kids. It was fine for us to just return home to eat, and then go back out to play again in the woods, or go fishing in the nearby lake. In the autumn of 1991, my oldest brother dared us to sneak through the hedge to the abandoned property that was located close by. We had always thought of it as a haunted house, but really, it was the old house where the man who started the village brick factory once lived. No one had lived there for ages, and the paint was starting to peel off, and several windows were broken. Our parents always told us to never go there. Their reason was, of course, that they feared we would get hurt playing there, but we thought it was because it was haunted. But that day, we dared to walk around in the garden, or whatever you want to call it. It had a now dried up pond, an old well, several old and dying fruit trees, and even tools in the old shed. It looked as if someone had just walked out one day and never returned, leaving everything as it was. We soon came to think of the garden as ours, and played there all the time. We would climb the trees, use the tools to build things. It was great. Our very own secret playground. We suspected that people in the village had seen us, because soon our parents would ask us if we had gone there, despite it being strictly forbidden, which of course we denied. But someone must have complained. We were rather loud and untamed kids. Until one day, it was November. I remember, since it was the days before my birthday. It was a damp and rainy day, and we weren't really in the mood for playing outside, but our mother had chased us out of the house so she could clean in peace, and we weren't allowed back in until an hour later. So, we decided to try and open the old cellar. Imagine, if you will, a hatch that opens almost horizontally to the ground, then a few steps that lead you down into a digged out cellar with stone walls and earth floor. It was used to store vegetables and such, but was empty now. All of us climbed down to have a look. The plan was to write our names on the inside of the cellar, mark it as our own, sort of. Suddenly, the hatch slammed shut above us, and the cellar became completely dark. I started screaming, and my older brothers tried to open the hatch. When my oldest brother pushed the hatch open, he saw a man's hand holding a small axe. "Come on out, you trespassing little brats," the voice growled, the axe close to the opening of the hatch. "Hell no," my brother shouted back, slamming the hatch shut from the inside. "All right, little brats. I know you're all in there. All 3 of you. Does your mummy know where you are? Does she? I bet she doesn't. No one will look for you." We heard him dropping the axe and starting to move around with something else. Soon we realized that he had taken out a hammer, and before we knew it, he had started to nail the hatch closed. I threw myself at the hatch, determined to get out, but the moment the hatch opened just a tiny bit, he reached for the axe. "Come on now, come on out. It's the better choice, really. It must be awfully dark and damp in there. Aren't you afraid of the dark? Go on. Let your little sibling out." He laughed, and we could hear that he was drunk. My other brother was pleading with the man to let us go, promising that we'd never return, but his words fell on deaf ears. The rain had started to fall really heavily now, and we heard thunder outside. The drunk man with the hammer was cursing and moving around outside, clearly bothered by the bad weather. "I might come back to let you out one day. Or maybe I'll butcher all three of you," he whispered through the wooden door as he hammered the hatch shut. We were too terrified to do anything, but my oldest brother told us to keep calm and it would be okay, and that he was surely just out to scare us. The dark was compact inside the cellar, and it was cold and damp. After a long while of silence from the man outside, we started to wonder if he had left. My brother decided that we should count to 100, then try to get out. We counted loudly, then used our hands to find the hatch. It was definitely nailed shut. My brother told us to feel the stone walls for a loose stone, and we did, cutting our palms up on the sharp edges. Eventually, we did find one, and it was surprisingly easy to remove from its place. The cellar was old and had not been tended to for ages, and the rainy climate of the Norwegian coastside had left the wooden hatch doors rather soft with age. The hardest thing was to reach up. The cellar was built in such a way that it was almost impossible to get a good forward motion going in order to break the wood. But fueled by panic and adrenaline, we broke the lower half open. Being closest to the ground, it was softer and easier to tear apart. We started digging the earth with our hands, creating a small opening. Being the smallest, my brothers pushed me out of the cellar, and I could see that the man was indeed gone. My brothers were too big to fit in the small opening, and they said I would have to get the hammer and get the hatch open. I was absolutely petrified that the man would come back with the axe, and I would have to run, leaving my brothers to die, or stay and be slaughtered. At 8 years old, I had no doubt that that would have happened. I got to the hammer, but couldn't get the nails out, so I simply used the hammer to break the hatch to pieces. Soon, all three of us were running for dear life across the garden and home, where our mum threw a fit over the state of our clothes and hands, and demanded to know what we had been up to. "Nothing," we lied, unsure of what to say. We never went back there again. We never even looked that way. The man with the axe? We have no idea who he was, or where he came from. I wonder if he was a drifter, living in the abandoned house, not wanting nosy kids disturbing the peace. This is by far the most fearful episode of my life. We never told anybody about it, but every year, when my brothers and I reunite at the family home for Christmas, we like to ask if there is any news about the old ghost house down the street, and whether anyone has moved in there yet. Hello everyone, SinisterShaf here. This story was Hammer or Axe, Pick Your Faith by Trebroder. Thank you for letting me narrate your story. If you enjoyed this video, then please like and subscribe if you have not done so already. Also, if you can, share this video with your friends You can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Links are in the description box below. Thank you for watching, and, as always, stay sinister.